The Butcher Baker, the Robert Hansen story. Welcome to The Most Evil, where we delve into the minds of history's most notorious serial killers. Today, we dig into the dark and unnerving story of Robert Hansen, often known as the Butcher Baker. Join us as we discover the heinous deeds of this American serial murderer who tormented the Alaskan wilderness in the 1970s and 1980s. Robert Hansen was born on February 15, 1939, in Esterville, Iowa, the son of a Danish immigrant and a German-American mother. Growing up, Hansen struggled to develop meaningful connections with others, frequently feeling excluded and separated from his classmates. He was regarded as a loner who spent much of his time alone and engaged in lonely pursuits. Hansen's difficulties in social situations were compounded by his stutter, which further hindered his ability to communicate effectively. As a kid, Hansen had a terrible fixation with hunting and trapping animals, inflicting violence on them for his own entertainment. Despite his troubled upbringing, Hansen managed to lead a relatively normal life in his early adulthood. He married young and started a family appearing to meet conventional standards for marriage and fatherhood. However, under the surface, Hansen's inner turmoil persisted, spurred by an increasing obsession with violence and dominance. Hansen's journey into darkness intensified in the 1970s when he moved to Alaska with his family. It was here, amidst the rugged wilderness and vast expanses of uninhabited land, that Hansen's twisted fantasies began to take shape. He regarded the distant Alaskan environment as the ideal hunting field for his sadistic wants, a location where he could indulge his cravings without danger of being discovered. The solitude of Alaska provided Hansen with the perfect cover for his crimes, allowing him to follow and prey on defenseless women without consequence. Hansen's perfectly planned abductions and killings went unnoticed for years, as he diligently concealed his tracks and avoided suspicion. Between 1971 and 1983, Robert Hansen abducted, tortured, and murdered at least 17 women in the Alaskan wilderness. His victims, predominantly young women and sex workers, were targeted for their vulnerability and perceived expendability. Hansen would lure them to remote locations under the guise of offering them employment or a ride, only to subject them to unspeakable acts of violence. Robert Hansen's approach to serial killing was marked by precise preparation, deception, and a terrifying ability to fit in with his surroundings. His actions were meticulously planned to reduce the danger of detection while increasing his influence over his victims and the environment in which he operated. One of the most important aspects of Hansen's technique was the selection of victims. Hansen targeted vulnerable women, mostly sex workers and those living on the outside of society, believing they would be less likely to be noticed or followed by police authorities. He used their desperation and fragility, enticing them with promises of money, work, or rides before committing them to horrible acts of violence. Hansen's mode of operation usually involves contacting his victims in public settings, such as bars, strip clubs, or the streets of Anchorage, Alaska. He would then utilize his charm and manipulating talents to earn their trust, frequently appearing as a concerned citizen who offered aid or listened sympathetically to their problems. Once he had gained their confidence, Hansen would offer them a ride, only to take them captive and transport them to his remote cabin in the wilderness. Once in captivity, Hansen subjected his victims to extended durations of physical and psychological torment. He would frequently bind and gag them, limiting their ability to move and preventing them from escaping. Hansen's hunting talents were critical to his strategy, allowing him to easily travel the rough Alaskan terrain while avoiding discovery by police officials. He would frequently drive his victims to secluded locales where they could be exposed to his sadistic fantasies without danger of interruption or interference. To conceal his traces and escape suspicion, Hansen would dispose of his victims' bodies in distant locales, frequently burying them in shallow graves or dumping them in the forest. This made it impossible for police to relate the disappearances to Hansen or find evidence tying him to the crimes. Despite his best efforts to evade detection, Hansen's meticulous planning eventually unraveled, thanks to the bravery of his surviving victims and the relentless determination of law enforcement. His capture marked the end of one of the most chilling chapters in the annals of American crime, but the scars left by his heinous acts would linger for years to come. Robert Hansen's reign of evil came to an unexpected end on June 13th, 1983, when one of his intended victims managed to flee and inform police, triggering a series of events that led to his arrest and subsequent punishment. The critical moment occurred when Cindy Paulson, a teenage sex worker, was able to break herself from Hansen's control and flee to safety. Paulson had been lured into Hansen's vehicle under false pretenses and taken to his remote cabin in the Alaskan wilderness, where she was subjected to a terrifying ordeal of abuse and violence. Despite being chained and gagged, Paulson mustered the strength to break free from her confines and make a daring escape into the night. Following her escape, Paulson immediately phoned the Anchorage Police Department, giving them a precise description of her assailant and the location of Hansen's cabin. Her bold acts not only saved her own life, but also contributed to the end of Hansen's reign of terror and the justice for his victims. Armed with this knowledge, law enforcement agents started a huge manhunt to catch Hansen and rescue any prospective victims who remained in his custody. They performed a comprehensive investigation of Hansen's property and uncovered evidence tying him to many disappearances and killings, including his victims' personal possessions and firearms. On October 27, 1983, Hansen was arrested at his Anchorage, Alaska, residence and accused with many counts of kidnapping, rape, and murder. His arrest sent shockwaves across the neighborhood and drew national attention as the full nature of his wickedness became clear. During his trial, Hansen was presented with substantial evidence tying him to the abduction and killings of several women. His surviving victims bravely testified against him, recounting their harrowing experiences at his hands and providing crucial insights into his modus operandi. On February 18, 1984, Robert Hansen was convicted of 4 charges of murder and sentenced to 461 years in prison with no prospect of release. His capture put an end to one of Alaska's most notorious killing sprees, bringing closure to the victims' families. Hansen's crimes left a lasting legacy of fear and mistrust in the Alaskan community. His case shed light on the dangers faced by women in remote areas and prompted calls for greater awareness and vigilance. Psychologists have analyzed Hansen's case extensively, exploring the psychological factors that drove him to commit such heinous acts. As we end our investigation into Robert Hansen's life and actions, we are left with a disturbing reminder of the extent of human wickedness. His narrative serves as a warning about the risks of unrestrained obsession and the devastation caused by unchecked violence.
If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more content on true crime and psychological analysis. Remember to stay vigilant, and until next time, stay safe.